Coming in this week's Old School update, we have the brand new smithing activity, the Giant's Foundry. So in today's video, we're actually going to go through the entire blog, and I'm going to give you everything you need to know before its release. First things first, we will have a short quest that will basically be a prerequisite in order to even attempt the new activity, and it's called the Sleeping Giants quest. It'll have a 15 smithing requirement, and the rewards will be access to the Giant's Foundry, 6k smithing XP, and 1 quest point. Now for the basics, here is what the Giant's Foundry is going to look like, and after completing the Sleeping Giants quest, you'll have all the know-how you need to start smithing in the Giant's Foundry. I imagine the quest is going to be pretty similar to that of the Guardians of the Rift minigame quest, where a good portion of the quest you're basically just doing a walkthrough of what the minigame is going to be. Now this is a non-instance and non-combat safe area accessible to all old school RuneScape members. And the Foundry began with a simple question: how can we make smithing more interesting and engaging? And they wanted a process that was more exciting than just taking a bar to an anvil and hammering away for a couple seconds. Thus, the Giant's Foundry requires you to use all of your skill and perseverance to forge swords of giant proportions. And be careful, because each resource used within the Foundry has the potential to offer more value per bar, but if you're not paying close attention, you could lose both the bar and your experience. Now moving on to gameplay on how the Giant's Foundry is going to work. I 100% recommend you just pull up this video, and I'll actually link it down in the description below. And you want to navigate to the 2 minute and 55 second mark for the section titled How Will the Giant's Foundry Work? And it's roughly a 8 or so minute clip of Mod Oasis basically going step by step on making a low level sword. And if you want some first-hand gameplay experience, there's no point in me just explaining what he does, while you can just hop over to that video and watch him actually do the actions while he explains it. But moving on, we'll go down to the setup. Before you can start working on a sword, you'll need to pick up a commission from Kovac. Commissions define what kind of blade you'll be making using 2 descriptive words. For example, you might receive a commission from a giant who wants a sword that's narrow and spiked. You'll need to keep that description in mind when you choose your mold. Look through Kovac's mold library for the best match for your chosen description. And the closer the match you find, the higher quality your sword will be when you start forging, so make sure you choose wisely. Because in return, the higher the quality, the better reward you are set to receive. They do say note that the points you gain here won't affect how difficult it is to make your sword. That's all determined by the type of metal you choose. And as you can see, if we roll down here to the Foundry mold setup, you can see the commission is to make a broad and flat, and you'll see the descriptive words that you want are going to be highlighted in green. For the Silent Point has 4 with the broad, or the People Poker has flat, or the People Poker +1 has flat +6. And then once you've set your mold, it's now time to move on to the Crucible, which is the big stone bucket chained above the river of lava. And the whole purpose of the Crucible is to heat and liquefy the metal you put into it. It'll accept bronze, iron, steel, myth, addy, and rune bars, or any metal item you want to recycle. So any old plate bodies, plate skirts, or any metal armor pieces you have just lying in your bank, you can discard into the Crucible to liquefy them to use for the Giant's Foundry. Do note that whenever you recycle items, you don't get all of the bars back it took to craft them. Some material is always lost in the creation process, and I'm not 100% sure if this is guaranteed for all different materials, meaning like iron, steel, myth, and addy, but Oasis does touch on in that video that you will always lose 1 bar for each item you insert, meaning if you put a plate body into the Crucible, you would get an equivalent of 4 bars back, 1 less than the 5 bars it took to make the original plate body. A giant sword will require 28 bars worth of material, which is conveniently the exact same amount the Crucible can hold. And then once you've filled the Crucible, you can now pour the metal into your mold, and the higher the tier of the metal you've chosen, the longer the sword will take to shape, and the more precise your temperature will have to be in order to execute it. And they also do point out that Kovac also believes that swords made of alloy, a mixture of 2 or more different metals, will be better, so definitely keep that in mind. But now for the refinement process, and this is basically what lets you shape the raw preform you just created into a blade. And the first one is the trip hammer, and this requires your sword to be hot, and this tool is used to hammer out the imperfections. As you can see down here by the display, that the red is going to indicate the trip hammer, as well as the hot area on your temperature marker. So as Oasis shows in the video, whenever you're working with the trip hammer, you want to keep your temperature within the red area. Then next up is the grindstone tool, and this is indicated by the yellow shaded areas and temperatures on the overlay. Then we have the polishing wheel, which is the cold temperature tool, indicated by the green area on the overlay. And then the final two processes you have are the lava pool and the waterfall. The lava pool is an area where you will dip your sword into it to heat it back up to get it to a high enough temperature to operate if you drop too low. And then the waterfall will do basically the exact opposite, where if you need to cool it down in order to use a tool, that is where you're going to take it. Using tools will continue to change the temperature, and your sword will naturally cool off over time. And using the incorrect tool or using the right tool outside of the correct temperature range will result in a lower quality sword. And if the quality ultimately reaches 0, you'll have to hand it over to Kovac and completely restart. And do take a big note right here, that quality can only be lost and you can never get it back. So if you do happen to drop whatsoever, you're guaranteed to never get any of that quality back, and you'll have to just turn it in for slightly fewer rewards. And next up we have XP rates, and as they mentioned earlier, the entire goal of the Giants Foundry was to create a more enjoyable version of training smithing that was still solid XP but slightly less click intensive than Blast Furnace. So if we drop down to the XP table, you can see that making the lowest tier of swords, there's going to be fewer steps when making these swords, so you can make them a little quicker. So you can make about 20 swords per hour with an average XP per sword of 2400. Meaning per hour you would get about 48k smithing XP and it would not be profitable. But it would also be an average GP per XP of about 0.2. Then for the medium tier you would make about 15 swords but also get about 135k smithing XP per hour and still being slightly profitable. Whereas on the highest end and making the most expensive swords, you'd be able to make about 12 per hour while gaining 276k smithing XP per hour. And this method would result in an average GP per XP of about 6.6, in comparison to making gold bars at the Blast Furnace with Goldsmith Gauntlets, resulting in about 375k XP with an average GP per XP of 3.5. As always, these rates are subject to changes, but with how they stand currently, you can definitely see how they fit into the current smithing meta. Other scaling methods offer little in terms of gameplay experience, so although this won't be the most optimal method for smithing, they feel the activity itself presents a better smithing experience overall for the player, particularly for training the skill earlier levels like 30 to 70. And as current methods are resource intensive, one benefit of the Giants Foundry is that you'll use fewer materials per hour, giving you the most XP per bar. But now for the final edition of the Giants Foundry, and that is our rewards. Apart from gaining massive XP, completing commissions will also give you a little GP depending on the quality of the blade and metals used in its creation, along with the currency you're going to be able to use in the Kovac reward shop, and that is Foundry Reputation. So here's what's in the shop. The first thing is the Smith's uniform. It consists of gloves, boots, a top and bottom, and offers two benefits. First, each piece will give you a 20% chance to reduce your smithing speed on an anvil by 1 tick, adding up to 100% when wearing the full outfit, and technically this roughly equates to 15 to 20% speed buff when smithing on an anvil. And then you'll also get a 20% chance for an extra bit of completion per outfit piece, once again resulting in a 100% chance when you have the full set equipped. You also have the ability to combine the ice gloves with your outfit to gain the benefit within the Foundry, and these can be removed whenever you do choose. Next up we have ore packs, and these are a great way to purchase lots of coal in one go, making it easier to prepare for your next trip in the Foundry. You also have a small chance to obtain other ores from these packs, but the primary focus is going to be on coal. Then in the reward shop we will also have Moulds. They thought it would be interesting to buy tools to help improve your swordsmithing process, so these extra molds will help with all kinds of commissions and to give you a leg up on quality before you even start your smithing. And the better the mold, the higher the smithing level you'll need. Then we have the brand new 8 cannonball mold. With Leagues 3 you get an 8-sided cannon, so it's only fitting we can now have an 8 cannonball mold. This mold will allow you to use 2 steel bars to smith 8 cannonballs at once, doubling your production speed. Then we have the smithing catalyst. This unstackable item when creating bars at a furnace will not only halve the amount of coal required, but will also double the XP you get. However, the catalyst will be consumed when the bar is made, so you'll need plenty of them to go around. And in addition, catalyst can also be used at the Blast Furnace and will give double XP for any bar produced that does require coal. Do note that it won't cut the cost of cooldown any further than it already does, which is the 50%. And as an additional benefit, they're also going to allow you to deposit these catalysts at the Blast Furnace Bank, so you can use multiple within one run. Then next up for the rewards, we have Kovac's Grog, which is basically going to be a consumable potion that will give you a temporary smithing boost of +4. And then the final reward to round off the video, we have the Colossal Blade, which was going to be previously the Hill Giant Club ornament kit until it was changed. So rather than just a cosmetic upgrade, we're now going to have a brand new standalone weapon that will require 60 attack to wield, and will be equipped with a special effect that increases your max hit according to the size of the NPC. As you can see, the blade has a slash attack bonus of 98 with a melee strength bonus of 100. But the biggest benefit is the fact that you're going to be able to use a new max hit formula with a cap of 5 for an NPC size, but it will be max hit plus 2 times whatever the NPC size is. They feel that the weapon now fits a good niche comparatively to the Dragon Semi, and could prove more useful in certain scenarios. And as we scroll down, you can get an early look of what the design is going to be. But with that, that is everything for today's video and everything you need to know about the Giants Foundry before it's released this week. If you guys did enjoy or found the video helpful, consider dropping a like down below. It massively helps me out. And subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.